Okay, I think we're live. We're done that. Mimsy was distracting me. She's here from the start and demanding attention. Ooh, look, everyone's already in the chat. What's been happening in the chat? Let me pop it out and see. Oh my God, you're so pushy. She needs one of these. Well, I've seen these things you can get for cats that they can automatically scratch themselves against. And she needs one of them. She's getting very demanding. All right, so checking. So who's here? Hi, Catherine and Fox and Luke and Dr. Obama, CrossFitter, Haruhi, Brett, Miss Foxification, Roshu, Huzzah. Oh, Harry, when's Supernova? I heard a rumor it's this weekend. It's not a thing I go to. These boisterous young people pop culture things. Big Pat, how you going, buddy? Bushy bloody thing. What color is this? It's like a tropical juice with some lemonade. And I think I got the balance right. It's a couple different juices. It's a lemonade. Mix myself up a drink. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Yes. So demanding. Oh, I see. CrossFitter following up from a discussion from the last live stream about radar detectors. I mean, I knew radar detectors would still be illegal. I just don't know how often cops would use their detectors because, God, I think hardly anyone uses a radar detector these days. And I do think the way to get away with it would be the instant your radar detector detects something radar-y, switch it off for 5 minutes. Yeah, deny if the cops do stop you and ask you about it. It would also help if you weren't speeding, you know. That's just another thing. Hey, Stella, how's it going? CrossFitter Mick McCann from Highway Patrol. Do you mean the TV show Highway Patrol? Which I love. That show's great. I'm not saying we're addicted, but Mrs. Angry and I love watching both the New Zealand one. What's the New Zealand one? Police 710 or something. And the Australian Highway Patrol one, which is mostly, if not all, in Melbourne. It's fantastic. It's like the New Zealand one I like. Now, first I'll admit because the accents. But second, because almost everything in it is so low stakes, and the Kiwi narrator is always telling the story. He goes, well, Constable Smith's going down on the country road and who knows what's going to happen. That is not what he sounds like at all. But I love the narrator on the New Zealand one, Police 10-7. And the Australian Highway Patrol, the one that's set in Melbourne, because it's like every second person they have won't stop swearing at them. Like it's non-stop beeps of these bogans who are already in trouble for speeding, being under the influence, being unlicensed and driving an unregistered vehicle. And then they top it off by just swearing a blue streak at the coppers, which I have so much trouble wrapping my head around. It's wild. What are we saying about GPSs being useless? What are we basing that on? Catherine, you heard GPS is about to have a Y2K. GPSs are having a decade rollover issue. That seems odd. But also with most GPSs, you can update the software in them quite easily. So I have trouble seeing that being an issue, but I haven't heard about it, so I don't know. Justin, yes, the people on this show are regularly, but not always, fined for swearing. That's at the copper's discretion if they find someone for swearing at them. And I have to admit, it just does my head in that these people just full on swear at the top of their lungs at these cops. It's weird as hell. Border security can be okay. I'm not really into it. Border security is occasionally interesting. The top ones are definitely the New Zealand cop one, Police 10-7, and the Highway Patrol one shot in Melbourne. They're just fucking great. And like for a variety, like, yeah, because Cops is still running, or at least you still get repeats of it. The original American one, Cops. And because we were getting really into watching Police 10-7 and Highway Patrol. So I go, well, let's watch the original Cops. And the show's just completely charmless. Like, Cops is shithouse. It's just terrible. It's we said, like, watching one episode, it's like, Jesus, no, this has got nothing going for it, does it? This is, no, this is not entertaining at all. Yeah. You like watching the dash cam videos on YouTube. The best dash cams seem to come out of Russia, and that was one of the places where dash cams were first really popularized. And I did get told it's because there's a massive problem with fraud in Russia and people deliberately creating or faking accidents, and everyone started installing the cameras in the car to record what actually happened. So when someone, and there are these really funny dash cam videos from Russia of someone waiting till a car is almost stopping and then trying to throw themselves on the car, and they're obviously then going to try and claim the car hit them. You see the car stopping completely and the person going, and then just throwing themselves on the bonnet and going, so that's apparently why they got popular in Russia, to present insurance fraud. But that, of course, led us to all sorts of amazing sites. Russia's just wild. What's that stuff? One of your friend's car was hijacked to use as a drug run. It did 2,000 kilometers and they got it back next town over full of syringes. I know there's Australian dash cam channels on YouTube, and I have seen some entertaining things on them, but nothing compares to the Russian dash cam stuff. It's wild. Pat, Rachel's birthday was on the 29th, so last week. Happy birthday for last week, Rachel. Hope you had a good day. Brett, you're going to stick to the trains in Russia. The roads do seem a tad wild. Yeah, I have no idea. Through the internet, I have a couple of Russian friends. I have no idea what Russia's like safety-wise. Because you always used to, and this is from reputable sources, used to hear stories about trains in Europe generally being unreliable, unsafe. All these stories of people on overnight trains, like if you fall asleep, people will steal all your luggage. And there are even stories of people like putting sleeping gas into private rooms on the overnight trains to actually knock the occupants out and then stealing all their luggage. Yeah, so I don't know how accurate that is, what it's like in Russia. Yeah. Ah, Fox of Fate, sovereign citizen types. They're a hoot. They're an absolute hoot. For people who've never heard of sovereign citizens, they're a right-wing pseudo-libertarian group who claim they are a sovereign citizen. They are a sovereign of themselves, that no other power has authority over them. So the government doesn't have authority over them. So no laws apply to them. And by jings, doesn't it go badly for them every time they try and tell a copper who's pulled them over for driving an unregistered vehicle and not having a license? Doesn't it go badly for them when they mouth off to the coppers about how they're a sovereign citizen and the copper can't touch them? Yikes. See, Brett, when I say unreliable, I actually meant unsafe. And I don't know how, I honestly don't know how true it is. However, yes, I heard Reclaim Australia is full of sovereign citizens because they're just all collective nutbags. It's this collective of right-wing nutbags who think they're the most important person in the universe, and rules don't apply to them. So yeah, it's a bit wrong. Ooh, Safa, you've done the Trans-Siberian Railway, 25 hours, nice. And also happy birthday for Tuesday. So what has SBS started doing the train journeys, but with nothing happening, like just the short version goes for an hour, and I think the long versions go for 12 hours. The Ghan and the Indian Pacific. The Indian Pacific goes east-west or west-east, depending which way you're going. And the Ghan goes right up the middle from Adelaide to Thing. Pat, did I look at Luna's house today? I'm not a stalker, buddy. I'm not going looking in Luna's windows. Not sure what you're asking. Hurry. Oh my God. If you ever want cops in Australia to absolutely lose patience with you, say you're pleading the fifth, and because that's a thing people actually do in Australia, because they've seen it on TV and read it on America, which is, of course, the Fifth Amendment to the US Constitution, that you have the right to not incriminate yourself. There is a similar law in Australia, but it's not the Fifth Amendment. So I told my kids, once they got into their teenage years, and they, teenagers get into trouble sometimes, and I gave them 2 rules. I said, if you're ever in a thing, you get trouble and you end up with cops, you don't say anything. This goes to adults too, but when you're underage, you don't say anything. You tell them your name, you tell them your age, you make sure they know you're under 18, and you say, I'm not going to answer any questions without my parent present. And because the cops are committing an incredibly serious offence if they continue to pester someone underage, if they say, I'm underage and I'm not going to answer any questions without a parent present. Cops are assholes and will try and get around that, but they can get in very serious trouble. As an adult, the thing to do is not say a goddamn word to cops, but very politely, identify yourself. Very politely, you say to the cop, I'm not going to answer any questions without legal representation. And if they continue to ask you, you just say, am I being detained? Am I able to go? And cops are complete assholes, and they will try and avoid the question, and they'll try and get away. But the real tell-all is try and leave the interview room. Just go, I'm leaving now, unless you tell me I'm being detained. Okay? I'm leaving. And that pushes them to the point where they have to say they're taking some action, but you still don't talk. You do not talk without legal representation. Oh, and the second rule I told my kids, now they're adults, so I flipped over into the adult version, don't talk without legal representation. The second thing, and this is super important to anyone, do not lie to the cops, because it's not quite like when you're hearing all this stuff about the Trump crew lying to the FBI, and that in and of itself is a crime. That's not the serious part about lying to cops. But if the cops, like, for instance, say you'd been at a, and this is a real case that happened in Australia to a teenager, right? His parents were away. Either he had a party at his house or he went to a party, and a young woman at the party was abducted, raped, and murdered. And because the cops had a description that sounded like him had been with her, and he had been with her, but he was freaking out because he was nothing to do with what happened to her. But he also wasn't supposed to be at this party, and the cops got him when he was drunk and he was underage. He's going, oh, my parents are going to find out. And he freaked out. And when the cops showed the picture, said, do you know this person? Have you spent time with this person? He said no. Now, the cops were correct in their assumption he had been with her. And so when he acted super nervous and lied, that made him look guilty. And the cops, that fixed in their mind, he did it. And then life got very hellish for this young man. So not only do not answer a single question from the cops without legal representation, do not lie to them. Because even if they're asking you something and they're asking you about a thing that's like, oh, that's bad. It's like, were you taking drugs tonight? I'm not answering any questions without legal representation. You just straight up say, I'm not talking without legal representation. Don't lie. Do not lie. There's almost no situation where lying to a cop will work out in your favor. So, it's only perjury and contempt of court is when you're in court. Not lying to a cop's not perjury. Perjury is a term for court. But I just say don't lie to cops because it'll fuck you up. Because if the cops are asking you something about something dodgy and you're worried that you are either guilty of what they're saying or you sound dodgy because of the level of involvement you had, say nothing. Do not talk to cops without legal representation. Safa, your sister is a cop. That's unfortunate. Hey, nobody, how's it going? But as a general rule, it's just a basic self-preservation thing. Don't talk to cops. Oh, fucking hell, Mimsy, what are you doing? She just lost her footing on me and dug her claws in. Don't talk to cops without legal representation, but really don't lie to them. Do not lie to them. Oh gosh, no, but you've got to get Safa, don't talk to your sister about crime. Don't talk. If she interrogates you, don't answer questions. Sisters are bad enough, man. Sisters who are cops, jeez. That's heavy. Yeah, so don't talk to your sister in an official capacity. Pat, you can't make the YouTube video. Oh, well, there'll always be another one, buddy. Don't you worry about that. So what if she's off duty? I don't know, man. She's your sister. She's your sister. You're going to have to make that value judgment. Justin, who's in law enforcement apart from cops? Cops are the only ones that I'm aware of that have coercive powers. You are right, Miss Foxification. Most people are convicted on their own statements. At least in Australia, our system is nowhere near as corrupted as the American system. The American system is very classist, very racist, and because it's political, because the people in the prosecutorial world are elected, which I think is horrifically bad. I think public servants should be public servants. The idea that, you know, like a district attorney is elected by popular vote, that just means they do things to appeal to a voter demographic rather than strictly upholding the law. And you see that perverted again and again and again and again and again in America. It's a terrible system, and it's predicated on how they're, yeah, you know, they want convictions, and so they go for guilty pleas, particularly with minorities who know they're basically fucked in the court system. They get told, the cops go, we've got all this on you. We're going to add 20 trumped up charges. If you plead not guilty, we're going to go to court and push as hard as we can to get you 20 years in jail. But if you plead guilty and just go to jail, we guarantee you won't be in jail for any more than 2 years. And it's just like, it's a completely corrupted system. Like, it's terrifying how fucked US law enforcement and judicial systems are. It's just rife with corruption and abuse, and it's just super fucked, basically. Have you ever ordered, Jesus, the Australian Taxation Office? Yeah, no, never talk to the ATO without, well, you don't necessarily need legal representation, but a good accountant. I have a good accountant who handles all my dealings with the ATO. Yeah, geez, if you get in trouble with the ATO, the taxation department, get help. It's not the same as with cops, but you want someone who knows what's going on, and you or I, ordinary people, don't really do it. Yeah. That's another good point, Luke. The US law enforcement has become horrifically militarized in the last 10, 15 years. And the thing, when you give the boys toys, they want to play with it. You militarize a police force, they are going to use the military hardware unnecessarily. Yes, Mr. Okay, it's because I'm a contractor with my own company. I need a good accountant. And I do have a good accountant. He's great. Saves me a fortune. Oh, no, buddy, you got one of the robocalls from the fake tax department. I've had a couple of, I've had the ones that wrote robocalls in Chinese, which was interesting. The other day I got a spam call. It wasn't a robocall, it was a person. It was a person, and I couldn't actually understand what they were saying. I knew straight away it was a spam call, but I was just kind of intrigued as to what it was, and couldn't understand. It was like, I'm blur from blur, which is a blur, and I'm going, no, I cannot understand you. What is the name of the company you're saying you're from? And she said, blah, blah, we're a tablet company. Okay, for what purpose are you calling me? They went, oh, your number's been selected and you want a free tablet. And for a second, I wanted to see how it go, because there's a scam in there somewhere. And I didn't know what it was. You know, they say it's free and you just have to give us your credit card details to pay for postage or something. But I didn't want to last that long. When as soon as she said, your number's been selected to win a free tablet, I just went, fuck off, don't call this fucking number ever again. Do not call this number again. But yeah, in retrospect, I I was intrigued as to where did the scam kick in. Yeah, did they say something like, oh, we just need your credit card number to pay for postage? Or did they just want my name and address? Was it an identity theft thing? Were they just checking that my number got answered? Because I'm sure it was an auto-generated number caller. Or, you know, if they were really elaborate, if it was a really elaborate scam, they would actually send you a tablet, a working, decent tablet, because they're not very expensive. Chinese knockoffs of tablets aren't that expensive. If they were a really elaborate scam, they would actually, for real, send you a tablet, but it would have malware on, like keystroke recorders, and they hope that you do your online banking with the tablet, and then they would score all your banking details. Is it musical activity? Your parents been getting NBN spam robocalls? Oh, you work for the NBN. That's a bit harsh. Oh, I like that. Nobody. Work them up by saying, how'd you get this number? This is an extension of a security agency. Now they're in trouble. They called my mobile, in fact. Oh, Luke, yeah, you're right. The giveaway from this one, because I've actually worked in the deep dark past in the automated calling centers. And what happens is there's a whole call center full of people, and there's a computer automatically dialing numbers. And if someone answers, as I did, it forwards the call to a human, and they press a button to start talking. So if you answer call, and I was going to say they're almost always caller ID blocked, but a lot of the times they're not. They're actually just spoofed numbers. But yeah, the giveaway is if you answer and say hello, and there's a second or two of silence, and then a click, and then the person starts talking. Because what that means is a computer called you, you answered, it routed the call to someone at a little flashing light on their phone, then they pushed the button and said hello. And that's a delay of 1 or 2 seconds. As soon as that happens, you know it's a scam. So yeah. Justin, a friend told you you're likely to get spam calls if you watch porn. I don't think so, unless you're giving your phone number to the porn sites. I think your friend's just being paranoid. Although there was, it's not so much funny, but I made a video about it a couple of years ago because it actually happened to a friend of mine. Your thing about porn sites reminded me of it. Being on some chat site, and a very attractive person that you're interested in the on the other end says, like, and you're on a webcam, and they say, hey, you want to get naughty with me? And they'll get their gear off, and the idea is, you know, the old what's the term for it these days? I was going to say sexting, but you're not texting. Cyber sexing, and you know, having a wank, and the person on the other end having a wank, and then they tell you afterwards that they actually recorded you, and unless you pay an extortion amount, they're going to send the video to your family. And this happened to a dude I know, and he was really freaked out. And AD and I had to talk him down. And I said, look, okay, it sounds bad, and yes, it would be embarrassing, but what's it going to be? You know, the person on the other end, they were hot, weren't they? Go, yeah. Well, you know, who's really going to hold it against you? A hot person said, you know, you want to wank with me, and if it comes to it, you just tell your family, like, oh yeah, this person's extorting me and they're doing this. because you can't give them money, because if you give them money, then they know you're going to give them money. You can't trust someone to be an honourable extorter. If someone's going to extort you, paying them doesn't guarantee they're not going to extort you anymore. You can't pay them. You just, in a worst case scenario where they genuinely have recorded you and it does get sent either to your family or, you know, posted on a public site or whatever, you just have to own up to it and go, yeah, I did that. So and you're right, Miss Foxification. Who in your family wants to watch a video of you whacking off? Hey, Tendai, how's it going? Yeah, you cannot pay people who want to extort you. What's my views on modern feminism? Well, this is going to go well. CrossFit, the same for crypto attacks. The trouble is, some of those crypto attacks, like if someone's been an idiot and downloaded some malware and your computers have actually been locked. And I know someone with a small business, this happened to their business. Their PCs got locked and, you know, it was the finances for the whole company that were being held hostage. You basically have to pay those ones, the ones who, like, you think, because like, well, you're not fucking getting it back. And then you have to really quickly get backups and fucking destroy all your computers and buy new ones and not be idiots in the future. Yeah, but those ones where someone manages to get control of your computers and locks them, your only hope is that they unlock them if you pay them, because you're fucked otherwise. Yeah, SAFA, proper backup procedures essential. It's just that 90+% of small businesses don't do that. Even big companies aren't particularly good at it, but hardly any small businesses do it. Yeah, Haru, he's like, you know, you're cyberbaiting, getting blackmailed by a hot woman. It's not the worst thing in the world, isn't it? Jojo, you want to know my topics on feminism? You could watch the videos on my YouTube channel. I am a big supporter of feminists and feminism because I think patriarchal structures in society hurt everyone. Every time, for instance, MRAs go on about bad things that happen to men. I'm a man, okay? I know bad things happen to men. The suicide rate, the homelessness rate, the danger on the work site, and all those things. The uneven pressures put on men are part of patriarchy, not feminism. Feminist desire for equality works in favor of men, not against them. Only fuckwits think otherwise. Ray, what do I think of Parliament condemning Fraser? I love it because the official term is censured. The Senate censured Fraser Anning, rightly so. It's a meaningless sort of posturing gesture. Fraser Anning is worthless, contemptible scum. He's absolutely vile, neo-Nazi, racist to his core, filth. He's absolute garbage. My favorite thing about the Senate censoring Fraser Anning is his fucking moron supporters thinking the term means censoring, and they go, oh, he's being censored. He's being censored. You know, he's being censured. The difference between being censored by the government is like the government prosecuting you for something you said. Being censured by your peers in the Senate means they're all saying, you're worthless fucking garbage. You brought this house into disrepute. your words were unacceptable, you're a fucking piece of shit. But I just love how fucking stupid his supporters are. Oh, they're admitting it. They're censoring him. No, they're censoring him. You sad, worthless, fucking garbage people. Oh yeah, Suffer, I did see that. That was funny. Qantas banned the 19-vote loser for... they banned him from the executive lounge. That was hilarious. Jolly good Jojo. Yes. I think obviously feminism as primary cause is helping women and getting women closer to equality. And someone brought up TERF. So if you've never heard the two terms, you may or may not have heard TERF and SWERF. They're acronyms. TERF is a trans exclusionary radfem. These women self-identified as radical feminists. So a TERF is a trans excluding radfem that is a radical feminist who refuses to include transgender women in discussions on feminism and being a woman, and in fact is very often incredibly aggressive and abusive to trans women. And the other one is SWERF, which is sex work excluding radfem. And these are women who just say like, all porn is bad, all sex work is bad, and they absolutely deny the agency of sex workers. Now, exploitation exists in every field, and there are lots of fields where the exploitation of workers is considerably worse than the exploitation of sex workers. Like they always talk about trafficking and doing it against the will. Anyone who has been trafficked and has been forced into any form of sex work against their will is a victim of a crime and should be protected. But if you start talking about trafficking and pretend it only happens in sex work, then you're full of shit. You need to look, and this problem's particularly bad across Asia and the Middle East, but it's still a problem in Europe and America, and to a lesser extent in Australia. The trafficking and forced servitude of domestic workers is absolutely horrific. And even people in building and mining and all sorts of things, there are people whose conditions are undiscernible from slavery, basically, and they're not in the sex trade. So yeah. But no, SWERFs are definitely real, Haruri. Who's one of the most famous ones? God, she's obnoxious. Seen her on a show and she wouldn't let anyone else talk and just shouted over them. And when asked simple, straightforward questions, refused to answer them. I bet if I look, I'm going to do a Google search on famous SWERF. I'm trying to think, what's her name? What does SWERF mean? Oh God, her name's not coming up. I'm trying to remember her name. God, she's obnoxious. No, my brain's not working, so that's okay. Luke, Pauline Hansman Hospital. Apparently she had her appendix out. No, oh God. I've made videos on her because she was on TV being super obnoxious. Oh, it's really annoying me because her name's sort of just dancing around in my head and I can't quite think of it. Oh God, it's just like it is seriously. It's doing my head in because I can't quite Remember her name? Oh, oh God! If my friend Eva was here, she'd know straight away who I meant. She's got a hyphenated name. God damn! Why can't I remember her name? It's really, really doing my head in that I cannot remember her name. I'm just because I made an actual video about her. Should be able to remember it, but I can't. Melinda Tankard-Reist. There we go. Melinda Tankard-Reist. Sorry, it's just really important to me that I remembered her name. Oh, yes, Stella. Jermaine Greer is a horrible TERF. Jermaine Greer is a really nasty TERF. I don't know what statements she's made about sex work. So glad I remembered her name. It was really doing my head in. And I didn't find it. I just remembered. I just remember it was like a double barrel last name, Melinda Tankard-Reist. She's awful. But anyway. Oh, we're going to the dumb things Trump said this week. He's repeatedly mentioned his father was born in Germany, although he was born in New York. His grandparents were born overseas, and his mother was born in Scotland. And yes, he said oranges multiple times when he meant a different word. And he said wind turbines give you cancer. It's just like the truth isn't even relevant. And he never suffers repercussions for saying stupid shit and blatant lies. And it's like, God damn. What was the word Trump was trying to say when he said oranges? Like, doing it once is understandable, but it's like he kept doing it. He didn't know he was doing it. Oh my God, Stella, I don't remember that. Greer lost you as a feminist when she went on Q&A and had to go at Julia Gillard's bum. Origins, that's it. Maybe it's just his accent, because there's a few words like I put a video of someone, I set it to music, someone made collecting him saying billions, and he sounds like he's saying beans. When he says billions, it sounds like he's saying beans. I'm like, okay. Justin, do I know Trump sued Bill Maher for saying his father was an orangutan? Well, there you go. I'm sure that went well. Bill Maher, as a by the by, is an awful, awful person. But because he's supposedly progressive, he's not. He's a misogynist shitbag. Just because he's anti-Republican, I wouldn't call him progressive at all. He's a fucking misogynist and regularly racist piece of shit. Every now and then the right wingers say like, "Oh, I'll get you," like particularly if some right-wing dickhead falls from grace for saying something incredibly obnoxious, bigoted, racist, whatever. They say, "Oh, we'll get Bill Maher for saying this," and it's like, no, please don't get Bill Maher removed from public life, please, no, not that. It's like Bill Maher's fucking garbage, honestly. Well, he's regularly had trouble with words. It's like it's getting harder and harder to avoid looking at what Trump says and how he behaves and whatnot, and going, it really looks like there are cognitive issues there. Like something is absolutely not right with that man. Yeah, it's bad what's going on with Trump. So Yeah, no, that's dodgy as hell. But it's getting harder. Like people are saying, like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't try and diagnose someone without a proper examination. And we know Trump's medicals have been a complete fucking lie, like an absolute lie, like an intelligence insulting lie. And you get serious people going, well, you shouldn't try and diagnose someone unless you've actually examined it. But it's getting harder and harder looking at Trump to not go, no, I think it's like dementia. There's some very serious cognitive issues there. I worry like he's been having micro strokes or something. Or like, fucking hell. Well, see, so that's the thing I always raise. People say, like, what do you think will happen to Trump? Will he be prosecuted? Blah. America seems too squeamish to charge a sitting president with crimes. But see, the downside is like, oh, well, he'll leave office and then we can prosecute him. His lunatic supporters are never going to give up on him no matter what. And by lunatic, I mean fucking 30% of the United States, which is a fucking lot of people. And it's like, okay, just say for argument's sake, the Mueller report is fully revealed and all those, like, okay, there's no indictable evidence to say he colluded with Russia in a criminal way to subvert the election. We do have the following 50 bits of evidence of crimes. Because was it 6 people really close to Trump all gone to jail? So, say because of information that came to light, like Nixon, Trump resigned to avoid impeachment. His lunatic fan base wouldn't accept that and would say it's a conspiracy, it's the deep state and whatnot, okay? If he loses the next election, if he's still there, runs for re-election and loses, his lunatic base will not accept that. God knows what they'll do. God knows what ridiculousness they'll go on. Maybe nothing, maybe something bad. And as someone else brought up, he's old, eats junk food, is chronically overweight. It's a miracle, and he's under a lot of stress. It's a miracle he hasn't dropped dead already, but he could drop dead at any moment. If he dies, again, there's no way his lunatic base will accept that. They'll say it was murder, it was a deep state conspiracy. And again, God knows what. So Trump has essentially debased the United States to the point that we can't be sure it won't all fall apart because of him. It's like, what the fuck? Right, he's right. There are so obviously crimes being done by Trump. After he's out of office, prosecutions at state level will almost definitely get him. But his base are fucking lunatics. They'll never accept anything. Yeah, no, but it was particularly bizarre that even Trump's stooge attorney general said in his very selective summary of the Mueller report that there's not enough to indict Trump, but he's not exonerated either. And then you get Trump literally saying, complete exoneration. You go, no, even your stooge specifically said you were not exonerated. And Trump goes, complete exoneration. Now there's what's been very interesting in the last day or two, there's been leaks from people on the Mueller team saying, no, that summary from the Attorney General is horseshit. The material in that report is far more damaging to Trump than he's suggesting. And as a number of people have pointed out, for 2 years, there were basically no leaks from the Mueller camp. And even when one or two new agencies ran with a couple rumors, the official statement out of Mueller was, we haven't talked to anyone. There's no basis for that report. They're making it up. But now there's been multiple leaks saying, oh, no, the idea that there's no dirt on him is simply not true. So I don't know how long we're going to have to wait to get details. Like, oh, yeah, okay. And people were absolutely fixated on the Russia thing. But the obvious criminality of Trump and his stooges is unavoidable. He's obviously a criminal. And 6 of his close associates have gone to jail. It's like he's obviously involved in quite serious crimes. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, God, Stella. Yeah, no, Alex Jones. Alex Jones has publicly stated he's a liar, and he's used the excuse of a form of psychosis for his lies in 2 different court cases. In a custody battle, when his estranged wife was saying, he can't have the kids, he's crazy, look at these videos, he's crazy. He just straight up said, oh, none of that's real, I'm acting, I don't believe any of that. Didn't affect his fans 1 second that he just blatantly said he was lying. And now, because he's in a fuck ton of trouble being sued, for instance, by the parents of kids who were killed in the Sandy Hook massacre, he's going, oh, it's a form of psychosis that made me believe that was all fake. So there's 2 separate court cases where he's point blank said, I'm talking shit. You can't possibly believe anything I said is true. And it hasn't affected his fan base at all. They haven't moved an inch. Who remembers you? Safi saying Alex Jones punched a senator. I didn't hear that. I would have thought he was in jail if he punched a senator. But that's just me. Oh my God, you want so much attention, don't you? Haru, yeah, he's literally pleading insanity. He said his reason for saying horrible, evil lies about the parents of kids who were murdered was he was suffering from a form of psychosis. I know he did have like a confrontation with Marco Rubio. I don't think he actually punched him, but there was a sort of physical thing with them. So you're right that he did have a face-to-face confrontation with Marco Rubio, but I don't think he punched him because I don't think he would have got away with that. A couple of people saying he harassed Bernie Sanders in an airport. Well, that makes sense. That seems like something he'd do. Yeah. Oh, look, here we are at the halfway mark, and I finished my fruit juice. Maybe I should make a cocktail. I like that I made a themed cocktail for Brexit. I don't know what. Could I make a themed cocktail? What would be a theme for a cocktail? Need to yeah. I don't know. Gotta watch you. I had some comments on my channel in relation to a previous live stream. I don't know if it was the last one or the one before, but someone just commented, "Oh, he's drunk," and I just replied, "Well, not even close." And then she replied with, "Well, there's like lots of bottles of booze behind you, true, and you're missing words or stumbling over words." And I just, well, maybe you should try talking extemporaneously for an extended period and see if you don't stumble over words occasionally. Because I didn't have a drink until the second half of the show. And, you know, she apologized. "Oh, I'm not trying to attack you. I like you." And she'd heard I was on Radio 4 in Scotland. I think maybe in all of England. I don't know. But yes, I did do a phone interview with someone from Radio 4, and she'd heard it and said, "No, it's fair, good." But yes, if I can, like, and I couldn't remember Melinda Tankard-Reist's name. So you're drunk, you couldn't remember someone's name. No, I haven't thought about her for a while, and I couldn't remember her name. But then I did actually finish it up with, if you want to see me drunk, tune in on election night, because that's probably going to be big. A Trump cocktail, what would be? Orange. An orange cocktail for Trump? So yeah, okay, I've got orange. I've got Cointreau, which is an orange thing, which is one of my favorite mixes, actually. One of my favorite cocktails is a nice simple one that has Cointreau and brandy or cognac and lemon juice. It's called Sidecar. Classic. It's a classic cocktail. It's very nice too. I'm going to do a search on orange cocktails and see what comes up. See if I get an inspiration. A fuzzy navel is orange. That's the one that Bender says, isn't it? When he's on a date with a female robot and he orders 2 drinks. So get her the girliest drink you have and I'll have a fuzzy navel. And the bartender goes, 2 fuzzy navels coming up. Oh yeah, there's the mimosa, which is orange. I don't think I have any orange juice. I have some juice. Not orange juice, though. It's a mixed juice. Ooh, a hurricane. Ah, okay. That's rum. I do have some rum. Orange juice, pineapple juice, and lime juice. I could do some mixed juice. What can I make with orange vodka? Lemon lime soda. Oh, Harvey Warbanger. That seems like a famous one. Galliano. I don't actually have Galliano. I don't want one that's all orange. Maybe I do want one that's all orange juice. I don't know. I like the sound of the hurricane, actually. Maybe, where are we? What's the full recipe for a hurricane? All right, it's a drinky side. I have to say oh, what the fuck? Fucking hell, this laptop, I swear to God. Okay. Okay, a hurricane seems to be mainly juice. So rum, light rum and navy rum, that seems more trouble than it's worth. And orange juice, pineapple juice, lime juice. I've got passion fruit syrup and lime cordial. I could do that. Ah, and then orange also matches Trump's face, really. Here comes the story of the hurricane. Yes, Stella, that's the old Bob Dylan saying about the hurricane, who was a Black American boxer who was imprisoned, I think, someone who was killed in a robbery, and he always maintained his innocence, and the conviction was eventually overturned. I think if I remember rightly, the family of the people, the family of the person who was killed said he was guilty. But yeah, that's a famous one. He was in prison. That's it, Reuben Carter. Thank you, Stella. Reuben Carter, the hurricane. I think he spent a couple of decades in jail before his conviction was overturned. Yeah. Now, I reckon I'm going to make a hurricane because it's got a song. Lots of juice. Okay. Light rum and navy rum. So I've got some white rum and some spiced rum. White rum, which is a Queensland brand called Beanley. And the old Captain Morgan. All right, I reckon I've got this. All right. Wait, I think it's no. Okay. Whew. Okay. It's been there since Tuesday. I rinse that. All right. I got to get. So Mimsy, can you look after things? Can you look after things? I'm just going to go over there, but you stay here and talk to the people. Talk to the people while I do a couple things. Oh, namely, shake, clean this out a bit. No, Mimsy, you were meant to stay there. I'm not coming over here to feed you. Okay. A tiki mug, particularly fitting for dry. This is, I think the Hurricane, this is a bit of a tiki cocktail. Not that big. I'm not really a tiki kind of guy, but this one will go. All right, so I get some ice. The ice water shaker. What do we want? Captain Morgan. So that's a Captain Morgan spiced rum. The Cointreau. There's a bottle of Cointreau. White rum here somewhere. I think it's hiding at the back. A little bit of white rum left. And juice. The rest of it was juice, wasn't it? All right, so I've got some. This will do for orange juice. Pineapple juice. All right. It's a little bit complicated. There's a lot of juices in this one, but I've got all the bits. I've got some lime cordial and I actually have passion fruit as well. So let's just say I have a lot of cocktail ingredients. Okay, I reckon that's it. Let's have a look. So this is a Hurricane, rum, orange juice, pineapple juice, lime cordial. Right. I don't have any lime juice. I have some lemon juice. Maybe I'll put some lemon juice in. All right. So actually, the Hurricane doesn't have Cointreau in it, but I've got my Cointreau here now, so it's going in. I don't know where Mimsy's run off to. She's somewhere in the kitchen. Hello, there you are. Now you should come back and talk to people. They miss you. All right. So we go rum. And rum. There's hardly any of that left. Rum, Cointreau. A little twist on the Hurricane. Right, now a little bit of all the juices. I think a serious person would use fresh squeezed juice, which I don't have. Freshly opened from the supermarket. So put some of this orangey juice in. Bit of that. Oh, bit of this tropical juice, pineapple coconut. It says pineapple. This is a pineapple coconut drink, which I think is quite fitting for a very tropical sort of drink. That in there. Okay. A little bit of this lime cordial. I love, they call this a very friendly and cordial lime. Pun on the word cordial. And I haven't opened this for a while, and I think the sugar has stuck the lid on. I got it. Don't panic. But I know this is strong, so I'm only going to put a little bit in. Right. A little bit of this passion fruit syrup as well. It's also a bit strong, so it's quite thick. We'll just put a little bit of passion fruit syrup in. It's going to be very fruity. I think it says lime juice, which I don't really have. So I might put a bit of lemon juice in. There we go. I think that's everything. Rum, orange, pineapple, lime, passion fruit. Yeah, okay. Let's do this. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. I need to get one of my big blocks of ice. One of my big blocks of ice for my thing. Well, I might get, I've got some frozen lime in there. I might get some frozen lime too. Let's get an ice cube. My big ice cube tray. It's one for people who know how big my head is. That makes this a very big, not just figurative, like people think I'm egotistical, think I have a big head. I physically have a very large head, stupidly large head. Frozen lime wedges because they're on special at the supermarket, so I put one of them in as well, just for a hoot. Probably too frozen to actually generate much flavour. Come on, go back in the freezer, damn you. Okay, and where's my sifter, whatever the hell this thing's called. Okay, I'm back. Oh, okay, so cocktail ready. This Foxification, how many standard drinks? I think it's about 3, the way I measured it. Okay, filter the ice out, so I just have my big thing, and it is of course very juicy looking. It's the amount of juice I put in there. Okay. That's the issue. Nobody. While I was away, you plotted to take over. That's fair. That's fair. How long has my fridge lasted? I don't know. I've had that fridge for a long time. It's a really cheap one too. So, it's my very fruity drink. It doesn't even smell like alcohol. It smells like juice. Oh God, it barely tastes like alcohol either. It's mainly very tangy from the juice. It's dangerous because that's about 3 standard drinks in there. Yeah, wouldn't want, like, for instance, wouldn't want to drive a car after drinking that. Drinking and driving, it's not good. So just in case, you know, people think like I'm being a huge advocate for alcohol. I mean, yeah, I don't mind a drink, but I tell you what, I hate people who peer pressure anyone into drinking or doing drugs for that matter. It's bullshit. If someone doesn't want to drink, they don't need to give you a reason either. People don't need to say, I don't want to drink for this reason. Just saying, I don't want to drink is enough, okay? Really fucking obnoxious to try and coerce people into drinking. But it's good. Justin, you're going to be a 3-day political conference online. That sounds wild. What's that in aid of? Are you part of some group that organizes international online political conferences? Sounds pretty good. Okay, you can't drink drive because your car's out of action. I get that. Luke, you could look seriously. You're saying I could drink it? I mean, yeah, it does. You can scull anything, but no, this does not taste like alcohol. It tastes, and it's mainly, I think it's the passion fruit and lemon juice that are coming across the strongest. Actually, you know what it maybe needs? A little dash of bitters. All those fruits have made it sort of sweet and tangy. I just put a dash of bitters in. Are you coming back to us, Mimsy? What are you doing? She's wandering around at my feet. I've got that little red bit at the top. I just mix that in. So you want me to be your barman because I'd mix drinks with my finger. Oh no, buddy, if you ever visit town, I got a good list of places to try out drinks. I tell you that much. Oh, there you go, Roshi. You don't drink at all, so you're my counterbalance. That does make good sense. Oh, Justin, the group's called Democrats Abroad. Oh, it sounds very interesting. I'd be very interested to hear what happens at it. It's cool. Are you coming back, Mimsy? You're going to come up here? Everyone wants to see you. You know your fans are watching. No, not my lap. Don't jump up on my lap. Don't dig your claws in. Come up on your little cast. Oh, God. She's being annoying. She's just being annoying. That's okay. Yes. Nobody, I just disinfected my finger. Jojo, what do I think about Jim Jeffries caught editing what his guests say on his show? I have not heard that story, but there's a sad fact of doing stuff on TV. It's always gonna get edited. You have to take it on a degree of faith that people won't act in bad faith. But if I remember, I will look that up because that sounds interesting. Like if he has been editing interviews to be misleading, that's not cool. No, don't go up there. Don't go on the counter. Come up here. Weird cat. Go up and whatever. You don't go up there. Don't go climbing on the counter. That's bad. Misfluctuation, it's hardly surprising Anning registered his own party. There's about 99% likely he won't get anything out of the federal election. Like, thankfully, you know, he should never have been in. It's only because of another One Nation person being declared unfit for office that he got in. There's about a 99% chance he won't get in under his own steam. Oh, Jojo, I am very interested in looking into situations. I mean, I make no secret at all of my politics, but I also do my very best to be honest. So, like someone who has political views that are consistent with mine, either a bit or a lot or almost completely. If they fuck up, it's important to admit it and call out, hey, you know what? They really fucked up there. I don't believe in the sort of tribalism that where you defend your own no matter what. Don't go through it at all. Of course he's saying he wants a European immigration policy. Wants to deport refugees, remove sex education, yeah, safe schools, of course. Emphasis on rising energy price. He's just a piece of shit. And I swear to God, like he's 99% likely to be ousted at this election. And when that happens, I swear to God, no fucker in the Australian media better give him a platform ever again. Because at the moment, they've only got the incredibly weak justification of, oh, he's a senator. He's a piece of shit and shouldn't be given a platform. But when he loses, no fucker in the media better give him a platform. I swear to God. It's just bullshit. Justin, yeah, I'm not sure. I assume Anning's going for the Senate again because there's no way he'd win as a local member. I'm not 100% sure how the Senate stuff works. If it's one Senate paper for the entire country, or if it is actually in zones, like with Anning being in Queensland, there'll be a Queensland zone. I'm actually not 100% sure. I'm someone who's reasonably obsessed by politics. I'm not that obsessed that I know all the ins and outs. I kind of think it's one Senate paper for all of Australia. It's got some stupid number, like hundreds of people on it. But if someone was to, you know, hold me at gunpoint and say, is it definitely one Senate paper for all of Australia? I'd have to say I honestly am not 100% sure. I think that's the case, but I'm not sure. Safa, Anthony Green knows everything. Absolutely everything. Ugh, Stella, the evil lying campaigns against safe schools really sicken me, because safe schools is great. Just teaching kids not to be homophobic little shitheads. In fact, like we had kids going to a really good school that they were doing the safe school things. In fact, they had a transgender kid at the school that was very strongly supported by the school. There was a story on them on the ABC, on Australian Story. You know what it's like to be a trans teenager. The school was very supportive, and I know my lad brought home the pamphlets. You know, that said something. You know, sometimes boys like girls, sometimes boys like boys, sometimes girls like girls. And he said it was making a big difference. Like it was definitely helping the queer kids at school, and there was basically an overwhelmingly positive response from all the straight kids at the school. And they were taking the understanding message and the empathy message on board, and being supportive. So, I mean, state safe schools is a really good program that made a really serious positive contribution. And these fuckhead right-wing religious zealots are fucking sick, absolutely fucking sick. Oh, it's grooming. It's grooming. The idea of telling kids that being gay is perfectly rational or perfectly acceptable. Oh no, that's a terrible. Oh, they're fucking scum. They're absolutely fucking scum. The safe school opponents, yep. Put them on a bus, send them out in the desert, and leave them there. Hey, Natalie, by the way. Yeah, no, but there are many cultures in the world that historically have recognized more than one gender. Oh, Natalie, you're on the ABC iView. You can't ask that intersex question. That's cool. That is very cool. Yeah, Safe Schools was a great program, as very positive, helped a lot of kids, and not just LGBTQI kids. It helped the straight kids understand. It helped the straight kids have a better understanding of it. It was a great program, and the opponents of it are the scum of the fucking earth. Like the same people who oppose, like the Venn diagram of people who oppose the Safe Schools Initiative and people who defend convicted child sex rapist Cardinal Pell. It's basically a circle. Okay, it's like they say, oh, you can't be having a thing in school that tells kids it's okay to be queer. That's not right. Let's messing with kids. That's grooming. And oh, the actual Catholic priests who are actually raping kids, oh, they're being persecuted. It's like, fuck you, people. You are absolutely scum. Oh, Safa, don't get me started. Well, actually, I'll take that back. Get me started on the school chaplain thing. The Conservative government putting in a school chaplain thing and specifically excluding secular counsellors is fucking evil, counterproductive and wrong, bordering on fucking criminal. Chaplains out of schools. Secular counsellors, yes. And actually what there should be as part of the program is a liaison, that if kids are religious and they need pastoral care, the school actually facilitates it. Goes, hey, your Christian kid is a Christian chaplain. Are you Jewish? He's a Jewish spiritual advisor. You're Muslim, he's a Muslim advisor. Or if you're just fucking sensible and want a qualified counsellor, have that. But the idea of putting only Christian chaplains in school is fucked. Absolutely unjustifiable and inexcusable. Classification. I'm not ashamed of the country because of policies put in by Abbott. I just think Abbott is the scum of the earth. He's one of the ones I'm talking about, actively defending the convicted child rapist. But hey, secular counselling for school kids, no, that's wrong. It has to be a Christian chaplain, despite the Royal Commission that showed the degree of abuse happening in these Christian institutions. No, fuck. I mean, just the interference, the religious interference in people's everyday life, I have no time for. Like I said, I think it should be an option. The school should facilitate. If there's a kid that wants religious guidance and religious counselling, there should be a path for the school to connect the kid with a religious counsellor, but the default should be a secular qualified counsellor. Because again, the chaplains there was no requirement for them to have any training or any qualification whatsoever. It's fucking ridiculous. Safa, is Abbott the worst PM ever? No, he wasn't PM long enough. John Howard was the worst PM ever because he entrenched racism as the core facet of Australian politics. And also his industrial relations policy was fucking class warfare. Abbott wasn't PM long enough and didn't get to do enough damage to be worst PM. John Howard's the worst PM, certainly in modern Australia. Justin, how many shots if Abbott loses his seat? The two big ones for the election are Abbott and Dutton. They're the ones I really want to see go down in flames. So, yes, I will definitely have, no, you're not allowed up there, Memsy. I will definitely have a Schadenfreude drink if, it's not even Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is a German word for shameful joy. The joy at Abbott losing his seat and at Dutton losing his seat won't be shameful at all. It will be joyful. It will be rejoicing. It will be a very joyful celebration. Those are the two biggest ones. There's a few I'll laugh at if they lose their seat, like Josh Frydenberg, I'll laugh at. I don't think Scummo's under threat, but I'd laugh long and fucking hard if he lost his seat. And dickhead from the National, Barnaby Joyce, if he goes, I will laugh a lot as well. But the two biggest ones are Abbott and Dutton. And there's a good chance, Dutton's the most likely to lose his seat, but there's a decent chance Abbott will as well. And I will laugh long and fucking hard if that happens to either or both of them. You can say hello to people, you're just out of camera shot. Justin, is Christensen I don't think he's under threat, but is he a local member of or a senator? I did see that, Safa, Barnaby Joyce's ex-wife, who he paraded as the example of why he was campaigning against marriage equality. And he was cheating on her while he did it. Okay, he is an MP. I don't think he's under threat. What's the margin in his seat? I'm just looking it up as we talk. George Christensen, he's been member since 2010. So it's always, I know, Labor held it for 10 years, just about, from 66 to 75, and also for one term, 2007 to 10, and Christensen's held it since 2010. So at the last election, he had an almost 4% swing against him that went all to Labor, two-party preferred. Wow, okay, he had a 4% swing against him. If he had this, okay, if he had the same swing against, he's at risk. He's only got, a 4% swing to Labor would lose him. So if he did as badly as this election as he did at the last one, he would lose. Yeah, no, he's on the list. He's the third on the list. Christensen is the scum of the fucking earth. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize he was at that much threat, but yeah, I don't know how likely that swing is, but yeah, he is clearly at risk. In all seriousness, anybody in the LNP who's got less than a 10% margin is at risk. Less than 5%, and Christensen's at less than 5%, that's quite risk. Like normally they say the people who are at high risk in an election, it's if they've only got a 2 or 3% margin. But this election, 5%, you've got to be really fucking nervous. 5%'s got to make you really fucking nervous. And seriously, anything less than 10%, you'd be a bit on election night. So I like that, Stella. Hope Joyce's ex-wife realizes she's lesbian, gets a Muslim girlfriend, runs against Barnaby and wins. I don't think she'd win running for the ALP, but as an independent conservative, she might. That's one of the big threats the coalition face, particularly in the country, where people are starting to wake up that the Nationals have sold them out. But a few Liberals are facing the same issue, notably Tony Abbott. A conservative independent, it seemed like a much more palatable option than the major Conservative Party. So I think the LNP, while they're going to lose a fucking raft of seats to the ALP, at least 10, I'd actually been betting about 20, but at least they'll lose at least 10 seats to the ALP. They're at quite high risk of losing a bunch more to independent Conservatives. Dr. Obama, no, I haven't seen Shorten's budget response. It's all fucking moot. I mean, the election's in a month, and well, yeah, a month to 6 weeks, depending which state ScoMo chooses. And it's meaningless. Like, get down. You're not allowed up there. No, come. Yeah, on your tree. Okay, you're allowed on your tree. Stella, you'd like to see Barnaby get beaten by the Greens. Now, Barnaby is at quite high risk of an independent Conservative offing him. So I think, okay, now we're up to my big four that I would really celebrate if they lost their seats. Top two, Dutton and Abbott, next to Christensen and Joyce, And there's well, basically, I'm going to laugh at every single LNP member who loses their seat. Are the fucking suckers? Because what are they? I've lost count of how many people resigned. Were they up to eight ministers that aren't going to contest the next election? So people who have zero name recognition with the electorate are going to stand with a really unpopular government. They're in trouble. They're in big trouble. So much trouble. Oh, Natalie, Joyce should be fucking gone. You are absolutely right. He's fucking filth. Dr. Obama, a strong independent in Frydenberg seat. That's what I like to hear. Also, the area where I live in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, where it's always been traditional Liberal seats, they're under so much threat. Like they copped a pasting in the Victorian state election, and the polling is suggesting, yeah, Tim Wilson is my local member, Justin. The polling is suggesting they may do even worse in my area in the federal election. So all these previously really safe, like seats never won by Labor, are under threat. Like Labor in 100 and since Federation, so like in 119 years, there are seats Labor hasn't won, and they are under threat at this election. So, Haru, yeah, the Nats are going to get, as you say, the Country Liberals and the Nats are going to get smashed. They're going to lose to, in some cases, it will be far-right parties. Like, who was it? The Shooters and Fishers did well in New South Wales. But even not loony conservatives, just independent conservatives are going to be quite a threat to the Nats in a lot of cases. It will be interesting. I mean, look, politics is weird, and you'd be a fool to you'd be a fool to say it's a done deal. Look, it looks incredibly likely Labor are going to have a really convincing win, but nothing's for sure. Nothing's for sure. Yeah, I think they're probably going to get crushed. God, who's worse? Bearing Isaac Butterfield friendly. Last live stream, we talked about Isaac Butterfield, who I don't know much about, Friendly Geordies, who I know more about. Bearing's just kind of obsessed with me, and I've got to admit, I think it's sexual. Who could blame him? Who could blame him? I do kind of wish he'd get over it, but he's been super fucking obsessed with me for a couple of years now, and I just hope he gets over it at some point. Oh no, Natalie, in the New South Wales election, the Shooters and Fishers and Farmers Party did quite well. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think they won a couple seats. But they certainly got a lot of votes anyway in country areas. I love Shooters and Fishers actually disowned One Nation. They said, well, we've never got money from the NRA. We've never courted the NRA. One Nation are scumbags selling out Australia. I thought it was hilarious. The Shooters and Fishers Party disowned One Nation. Dr. Obama, you are not the only person who first heard of my channel through Bearing. There's quite a lot of people, in fact. There, dude's kind of obsessed with me. I've lost count of the number of videos he's made of me. I've never actually watched any of them, but there's, I don't know, there's 6 or 7 or 8. I don't even know, because he had that whole thing where, because of copyright infringement, yeah, he had to lose a couple of years worth of videos, and he'd done a couple of me in that, but he's done at least 3 or 4 since. It's just kind of weird No, he just like obsesses over me. I think he's really miffed that I've never done a response video. I mean, I've discussed it, like when people have asked questions in the live streams, I've answered. No, I did do one. I was trying to embarrass him for being a weird, creepy stalker. And I made a video about him being a stalker with AIDSy and just going like, dude, you know, I won't say I'm not flattered, but I don't swing that way. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. So I was just like, I don't know what his obsession with me is, but when it's that fucking deep, it's hard to avoid the feeling it's a bit sexual. That's all. Oh, we're talking about voting above or below the line. Jesus, the Senate paper in the federal election, I think I saw it's going to be 360 people. So if you're voting below the line, you're going to run out of ink. It's really full on. So if it could 20 people fit in here, they'd be cramped because what you see behind me is only half the kitchen. There's another whole half the kitchen that way. There's little, like, you know, what they call them, islands here. And there's a sink and the stove and the big oven. So this is like half the kitchen. And yeah, you could fit 20 people in here. They'd be a bit cramped. Though I think young Mr. Angry was talking about having a bit of a soiree here in a couple of weeks. He's asking me if I could provide drinks, which is a bit fucking rich, quite honestly. But I'm a softie and I said yes. I just like to sort of know what's happening if he has friends over. It's not going to be a huge thing. I think it's only going to be half a dozen people, but yeah. Dr. Palmer, if I consider going into politics, oh man, too shitty. Politics is such shit. Well, this is a fair conversation that we were having in the last live stream. If I went into politics, I'd have to be the lefty equivalent of Donald Trump, just fucking mouthing off all the time and not caring about any conventions. You can, yep, no, I call people all cunts all the time. In my defense, they're all cunts. Looking at the assembled media in front of me, I sense there's a few cunts out there. I'm going to, you know, if I ran, I'd like go for the Senate. And I'd be like, yes, as I look about the Senate, what a bunch of cunts. Oh, well, someone's got to keep these cunts honest. You know, I would literally like have to be a lefty equivalent of Trump, just trampling all over social norms. And I don't want to do that to my family, for fuck's sake. Jesus. Haruhi, good to hear Daryl Lyons lost his Senate in Victoria. I don't know who that is. I hadn't heard that story. Jojo, I will probably watch the new Hannah Gadsby special. I think she's got a show in the Melbourne Comedy Festival's on at the moment. I think she has a show on that. I did like Nanette. Now, here's the thing. I didn't see Nanette at the Comedy Festival where it won the best show of the festival. I did see it on Netflix and I really liked it. I would actually describe it as theatre performance with some good jokes in there, as opposed to a comedy show. And this was a conversation I had with a friend who's a real comedy obsessive, super into comedy and stuff. And she was a bit like, okay, Nanette won the best show. This is the weird question. Okay, Nanette won the award for basically the best show in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival in the year, I think it was 2 years ago. It wasn't last year. I think it was 2 years ago. It was in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. There is no way Nanette was the funniest show in the comedy festival. Maybe someone, I was about to say, I don't think anyone would argue that. Look, there's always someone who'll argue it. But very, 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 very few people would argue Nanette was the funniest show in the comedy festival. And it's a comedy festival. So shouldn't the best show in the comedy festival be, you can see it? She said, don't go up there. Shouldn't the best show in the comedy festival be the funniest show? And there's no way Nanette was the funniest show. As a piece of, like, it's, if you've never seen it, watch it. I think it's still on Netflix. It's an absolutely compelling performance. Oh, you're such a shit. You are such a shit, Memsy. I swear to, no, get down. God, you're such a shit. Hannah Gadsby is brilliant. The performance in Nanette is brilliant. It's so raw. It's so, like, when I finally watched it, I was like, and because she's performed Nanette dozens of times. I don't know how many times she's done it. And she's done it in really big venues, like places with, I don't know, thousands of people. She's done this performance fuck knows how many times, the fuck knows how many people, and it is so raw. It is so personal. I don't really want to give anything away, but it's fucking full on. And it has some very funny jokes in it. It is not overall what I would call a comedy show. I would call it a performance, a piece of theatre that has some very funny jokes in it. And because there are some really funny jokes in it. Like I said, I had this conversation with his friend who's a fucking comedy junkie, and she was like, it shouldn't have won best show in the festival because it wasn't the funniest show. And it was not. There's no way it was the funniest show. It's probably the best performance. It was probably the best piece of theatre, but you'd have to be a weird kind of person. I don't think Hannah Gadsby would say Nanette was the funny. I can't conceive of her saying Nanette was the funniest show in the comedy festival. But it's a good show. It's an amazing show. And I'm interested. I would definitely, if she, I assume Netflix have bought the rights to her next show, which I think is in the comedy festival. So because it'll be all sold out. So I'm not going to go and see. I prefer to see underdogs in the comedy festival. Oh, no, I just got this yawn coming up. I prefer to see underdogs as opposed to really well-known people in the comedy festival. But I will definitely watch. She gets another show on Netflix. I will definitely watch it. I reckon, and this is with no inside knowledge and no evidence, but a key part of Nanette, without giving away too much, is her saying she can't do stand-up comedy anymore because stand-up comedy involved jokes at her own expense, and it was lying to the audience, and it was hurting herself, and she couldn't do it anymore. I suspect, because Nanette, everyone in comedy worldwide knows it, and the vast majority of people in the comedy world love it, and I suspect she's been having non-stop meetings with various production houses about doing a series, about writing a movie, something. She doesn't want to do stand-up anymore, but she does want to write, I think, and perform. So I think she's probably been in non-stop meetings about doing something. I haven't seen chat update for a while. Is it still working? Because I never know. I look and see, there's still a lot of viewers here. Okay, it is still working. Okay, cool. No one felt like that's cool. Oh wait, no, top chat. Christ, people have probably been typing and I've probably been missing stuff. Fuck, I hate the way it does this. Jesus. Stella, yeah, I believe, like I said, I believe Hannah Gadsby does have a new show. I think it's in the comedy festival. And that's cool. You're listening respectfully. I will do a quick search if she's in the comedy festival. And Gadsby, let's look her up. I think she's got a show in the festival. Mrs. Angry and I, yeah, Douglas. The show's called Douglas, and it's in the comedy festival. Cool. Mrs. Angry and I went out last Saturday night to see some comedy and have dinner and cocktails. And we saw there's a lot of ensemble shows or showcase shows where you get to see 4 or 5 comedians do stuff. There's at the Imperial Hotel, they have a show they call 5 at 5, which is really good because you get, it's at 5 o'clock early in the afternoon, and 5 comedians do a 10-minute bit. And so, you know, you get to see people that you might want to see. And there were, of the 5, actually 6 counting the MC, there's probably 2 of the 5 are really pegged like, oh, I wouldn't mind seeing their show. And the MC was really good. So I was always thinking, oh, what are they doing? So, oh yeah, Dr. Obama, yes, I did see Isaac Butterfield had a show. I've seen the posters around town. The show's called Why So Serious? He's got Joker makeup on. Like, go you with the 10-year-old cultural reference. That's a bold choice. And speaking of old memes, I want to do that thing with bold choice, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. If Isaac Butterfield can do 10-year-old cultural references, so can I. Oh, sorry. Misfoxification. Bearings in the virtual corner fapping. Look, there's just no getting around. He's got a weird fucking obsession, and I have trouble imagining someone with that level of obsession when it's not sexual. He should focus it on AIDSy. AIDSy would go for it. Jojo, does Isaac not have an impressive beard, right? I don't know that much about him, but you do have to admit he's gone all in with the Ned Kelly hipster beard. There is no getting around that. Stella, you wouldn't pay to see him on fire. Yeah, I might pay for that. Like I said, when we discussed him last week, I've not watched a lot. I have a feeling it's so many people set their followers against me. I lose track of who's done it. I think he did it once because he's done a lot of anti-feminist stuff. Because I do pro-feminist stuff. When I do pro-feminist stuff, the anti-feminists tend to go for it. Not 100% sure if he has, though. And that's just me not being able to keep track of people. But like I said, in his defense, at least someone shared with me on Facebook, he did do a video calling out Fraser Anning for being a worthless piece of shit. So at least he has that going for him. Because most of the anti-feminist crowd are also deeply, deeply racist. And most of the anti-feminist crowd would be huge fucking fans of Fraser Anning. And Isaac Butterfield, apparently not so much. So yeah, at least he had that going for him. But yeah, hey, my brain just skipped through a couple of things because we often talk about, well, what have you been doing? What movies have you seen? What books are you reading? Reading a book called Afterworlds. I think we discussed that on Tuesday. Very good writer called Scott Westerfeld has a great series known as the Uglies series. Afterworlds is great because it's like it's 2 novels in one. It alternates chapters. One is about a young, like 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old who wrote a novel for the National Novel Writing Month, which is November. And she gets a big publishing deal, and it's alternate chapters. One chapter is the story of Darcy Patel, who wrote this book that she got a big deal from, and then every second chapter is a chapter from her book, and it's really interesting. It's a really fun read. But we often talk about podcasts because I always said I always said like the only podcast I've really gotten into is the Blind Boy podcast. I've been listening to a couple others, like being a sad lefty like I am, I do listen at least occasionally to Chapo Trap House, and they're kind of fun. They're very bro-ish, but they're kind of fun. And they have, there's an Australian sort of lefty podcast called Bunta Vista. I know one of the people in that. I've listened to that occasionally. I'll tell you what I found recently, because I thought I want to broaden podcasts. What do I listen to? And I thought, oh, Dan Harmon, he has podcasts that are popular, doesn't he? And I like his shows like Community and Rick and Morty. And I'd listened to excerpts of Harmontown on YouTube and thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so I listened to the Harmon, sort of a recent Harmontown podcast, and didn't really get into it. But then I just searched on his name, and there's one. He doesn't do it anymore. It was like from about 2 years, started about 2 years ago, ran for a year or two. Like I think it finished sometime last year, and it's called Whiting Wongs. And he's in a discussion with is Jessica Gao, who's a writer. She wrote the Pickle Rick episode of Rick and Morty, and she's Chinese born, and they basically just have really open discussions about race and gender, with Dan Harmon going, okay, I'm the white guy. What fuck? I always fucking thought this. What about this? And he comes across as very open and vulnerable, and he's willing to come across as a dickhead, because he's saying, I want to have an honest conversation. That means being willing to say things that might make me look like shit, but I'm going to listen if you tell me that I'm shit. And I've listened to about a dozen of the Whiting Wongs podcast, and they're like, oh, I said they're about 2 years old. I really like them. They're very interesting. So I'm going to work my way through that series. Fox, Man Yells at News. I had a problem with that. And here's the thing. Blind Boy said one of his favorite podcasts is Bill Burr's podcast, because Bill Burr just talks. And I've liked some of Bill Burr's comedy. So I tried to listen to Bill Burr, and I had the same technical problem with Bill Burr's podcast as I did with the Man Yells at News. It's this weird thing, because Stella, you're heading off. Thanks for dropping by. Bye. I'll be gone in 5 minutes. What this weird thing happens, sometimes I use iTunes because I have an iPhone. So I use the podcast app on iTunes to listen to podcasts. Sometimes when I select podcasts, like it's hard to get it to start, like it won't load or something, and the time counter doesn't show anything. So even if it starts, the time counter never shows you how long you've been, and some shit happens. That's what happens with the Man Yells at News and with Bill Burr as well. I couldn't pause them. If I paused them or something, it would go right back to the start. And it's this fucking weird, and I don't know what the problem is, and I'll try and sort it out. Jojo, do I think podcasts should be unbiased? No, I don't think Joe Rogan is unbiased. I think Joe Rogan has a very clear bias, and his bias is that he's full of shit. I think the idea of being unbiased is fucking horse shit. I think being unbiased means I'm going to pander to the worst fucking people on the planet, because the maximum number of listeners to me is more important than having any integrity whatsoever. All I hear when someone says, I'm telling both sides, is I'm a worthless, sliming, pandering bag of shit who won't take a stand. As fucking horse shit. It's a complete fucking lie. Anyone who says I'm unbiased is almost without variation saying I'm supporting the status quo. And fuck that noise. That's cowardice. That is straight up cowardice. To not take a stand against the scum of the earth is to pander to the scum of the earth. And I have no time for that whatsoever. But that's just my opinion. Dr. Bowman, if I tried listening on another platform, no, I should probably download Spotify or something. Because every now and then the iTunes podcast app just fucks about. And I don't know why. So maybe I should try listening on other platforms. But yes, so it was weird, Fox. I had that technical problem with Man Yells at News, and I had exactly the same technical problem with the Bill Burr podcast when I tried to listen to it. And I started by listening to the most recent Bill Burr one. It's interesting. He's decided to set himself the task of not drinking alcohol for a year. He said once, since his teenage years when he started drinking, he has once given up alcohol for just over a year, and he's doing it again. He's a third of the way through. That's interesting because he appears to want to be really open and honest. Because I think he wanted to set himself the challenge, because you think, well, there's not much doubt if you rely on alcohol, particularly like if you drink alcohol every day, like I had the cocktail just now, then that's your fault. I'll just say it. And I will usually have a couple of drinks on Friday and Saturday night as well. But I'm quite conscious of, I don't want to drink alcohol every day. Not even like a drink every day. There's even the other week when I did a podcast on Monday, I didn't drink alcohol because it feels weird drinking alcohol on a Monday. Even if it was only one drink, it feels weird. And just for truth's sake, for next week, I will probably do my live stream on Tuesday again, because I don't have a physio appointment on Tuesday, but I do the following Tuesday. The week after, it'll probably be on Monday again. Thursday will probably be fine. I'll probably be doing it on Thursday. But I am trying to do, we'll see how I go. But I kind of had set myself the idea of doing a video every day in April. Vida, we used to call it in old school YouTube. Do a video every day in April. 4 days in, I've done 2 live streams, 2 pre-recorded videos. Safa, don't drink before midday. Yeah, I can't imagine drinking before midday, honestly. Sometimes I'll have a drink at lunchtime, like particularly if you're out with people. Last day at my current job, I might have a drink at lunch tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows? Going to an English-style pub, might have a cider. Who knows? Look, Jojo, it's fine, and that's why I said that is purely my opinion. No, you didn't piss me off, man. I just like to present my view in a really spirited way occasionally, and it is a firmly held personal view of mine that being unbiased is a fucking lie. At least 99 times out of 100, the I'm not political, I'm unbiased line means I'm supporting the status quo, which is a fucking political decision, okay? I happen to be incredibly biased, and my bias usually leans towards the status quo is bullshit. Yeah, I do get a bit foaming at the mouth when I talk about people who go, oh, I present both sides, I'm unbiased. It's like, fuck you, you're pandering for the sake of getting extra viewers. But you did not make me angry. I just enjoy presenting my view in a rather spirited way occasionally. Speaking of which, I'm going to bid you fine people farewell for the evening. And as per usual, thank you for spending some time with me. It's been a great time, as always. Mimsy's sitting on my lap. Okay, I don't want you on my lap anymore. I'm going to go to bed, Mimsy. Then you can come and sleep on my bed. She usually sleeps next to me on the bed. So you all take care of yourselves. Yes, Miss Calvert, I hope you have a good weekend. I'm going to work hard at getting a video out tomorrow night. And like I said, maybe see if I can do the video every day in April. I may or may not have a break from work because I've got a job interview on Monday and they might want me to start straight away. But we'll see. I wouldn't mind a break, particularly with trains being out in Melbourne, but we'll see what's what. I hope you people all look after yourselves. Hope to see you again soon. But I will say goodbye for now. Bye-bye.